Have you ever noticed that the more confident a person becomes, the less they tend to explain themselves to people? Not because they don't need to, or not because they don't have anything to say, but they've come to the realization that not everyone needs to understand them. Welcome to today's discussion on things confident people don't explain. I used to think that confidence was all about knowing what to say, having the right answer, the right explanation, defending yourself, being able to explain your decision so well that nobody could possibly misunderstand you.
Well, the older I get, the more I've started to believe that maybe confidence isn't about always having more to say. Sometimes confidence is knowing when you do not have to say anything. You say no to something and suddenly you're writing an entire essay explaining why. And sometimes the truth is simply, I don't want to, I can't, or that doesn't work for me. And that's enough. And I'm not saying we shouldn't be considerate. Of course, we should. If you've committed to something, communicate. That's the word. If you have hurt someone, take responsibility. If someone genuinely needs an explanation, go ahead and give one. But there's a difference, a great difference between communication and defending your right to make a decision. I think a lot of us kind of blur that line. We over-explain. How many times have you found yourself explaining something that nobody actually asked you to explain? You make a decision and immediately you start building your case on how we're going to explain this. I really think it's a self-sabotage because why betray my intention? And somewhere in the middle of all of that, you realize I really want this person to approve of my decision. True or false? Yes, it's true. As if that year I started asking myself a different question. Am I explaining because this person needs information or because I need their approval? Maybe you should ask yourself that question as well. What if we come to a point that we say, I've decided, and not immediately feel the need to build a courtroom around it? But honestly, not every decision needs a defense attorney. And sometimes the decision becomes extremely difficult because maybe it's something we change our minds over and over about it. Well, I'm glad to tell you that you are allowed to change your mind. Tell yourself that this week I am free to change my mind. This is another place that we over-explain. Maybe you said you were going to do something. You told people what you wanted, and then you suddenly change your mind. And then the weight of the need to explain yourself suddenly comes crashing on you. You start thinking, well, I initially thought about this, but this happened, and then I realized this, and then I realized that. But you know what? You are allowed to change your mind because you suddenly learn something you didn't know before. And that is valid. Your priorities changed. Sometimes you simply realize this isn't what I want anymore. That doesn't necessarily mean you were wrong before. It just means you are allowed to evolve. Guess what? We are always comfortable with everything else evolving, with every other update, except ourselves. Our phones update, our apps update, our computers even update. But when a person changes their mind, suddenly we start calling them inconsistent. He's so inconsistent. Well, for me, I've given myself the permission and the grace to accept updates, to regularly update myself, and you should too, without feeling the need to convince every other person that you change your mind towards something else. It's great. It shows that your system is active because changing your mind is part of being human. Allow your humanity. Embrace your humanity. Give grace to your humanity. And honestly, the same thing applies to the way you choose to spend your time. This actually makes me think about another area where people can feel entitled to an explanation: career and life choices. People will ask, why did you choose this career? You suddenly wanted to study medicine and all of a sudden you're an artist and blah 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 blah. You can hear the judgment sounding underneath their conversation. Why would you do that? Are you sure? Are you sure? Then go ahead and do it for me if you so care. And you can hear the judgment underneath their tone. Like, are you sure? Are you that? And suddenly you're standing there trying to explain your entire life. But here's the thing I've reminded myself: I'm the person who has to live my life. Your life doesn't have to look perfect logically to everyone. And while we're talking about choices, there's another choice I think we sometimes feel guilty about: needing time alone. Not because you hate people, not because you're fussy, not because anything is wrong. And I think that's becoming increasingly difficult these days because we are constantly reachable, right? Through our phones, through our emails, especially the notifications. People can find us almost instantly thanks to the global world. So sometimes we start confusing being reachable with being available. Many times you need to hear yourself think. You need to rest without performing. You need to sit with yourself for yourself by yourself. Sometimes solitude isn't rejection. It's where you hear yourself again. And if you've ever felt guilty for needing that kind of space, you should ask yourself, am I actually withdrawing from people, or am I simply making room for myself? We need to make room for ourselves. That will include not responding immediately to things. It is okay. You can see a message and answer it later. You can take your time. You can think before you speak. It's not always that you have a response to everything. You can respond when you actually have the capacity to be present in the conversation. You are allowed to. And I think there is something confident about not allowing every notification to detect your emotional state. And that leads to boundaries. This is where things get very uncomfortable. Because the moment you start having or setting boundaries, people will notice, especially people who were comfortable with when you had none. When you always said yes, when you always had answers, when you were always accommodating, when you were always available, you made yourself available. And then one day you decided, oh, I actually can't do that. And suddenly all hell is let loose. Yeah, you hear something like, you've changed. Yes, you have. Oh, weren't you supposed to change? You've changed. Maybe you finally learned that being kind doesn't mean abandoning yourself. Maybe you've eventually learned that saying yes to everyone could become saying no to yourself. Boundaries doesn't become wrong simply because someone doesn't like it. People aren't upset because your boundaries are reasonable. They are upset because the old version of you was more convenient. And that's a difficult thing to accept, but you have to accept it. Because we want to explain our boundaries so perfectly that they say, oh, I completely understand. But sometimes they won't. And that's where confidence really gets interesting. Finally, I want to say that maybe confidence isn't about making sure everyone understands you. Once you understand yourself, you find peace, stay there. Be comfortable not needing everyone to understand you. So I'm curious, which one do you still find yourself explaining? Your career, your choices, your space, your responses? Is it saying no? Is it changing your mind? Is it your career? Is it needing time alone? Which of them? Tell me in the comments down below. And if this conversation resonated, made you think about your own life, kindly subscribe, because I think confidence is less about becoming louder and more about becoming so secure in yourself that you feel the need to explain your existence every single second. I'll see you in the next one. Over.